live with like the conference legend, Darshan Kulkarni. This is our first. We did a Guru After Dark live at the
We did.
conference. I posted it actually. Like
Was it live, Dan? I'm curious. Was it live?
So we recorded it live. Like this is the full disclaimer. This is the Darshan strategy we use. Like you tell everyone it's live, but it's actually pre-recorded.
This is called
You
player
tease
hating.
Darshan.
This is called player hating.
You taught me. You know what? I'll concede to you. It has its purpose at times. Perfect example was our situation. We couldn't get it live, so we're like, listen, the next best thing, we'll pre-record it. You could go live when you come back.
And how did it do?
Actually did very well. Edie, I mean, we had like 9 people on there that wanted to see how they did. And they were all like intoxicated, so they wanted to make sure they didn't mess anything up.
Well, you did offer alcohol to everyone. It was sponsored, wasn't it? Effectively?
They offered. Shout out to Joe Dustin. I didn't have to do anything, actually. The whiskey, the bourbon was already there. It's very good.
It was.
Bourbon, by the way.
I actually wanted to buy that bourbon. He wasn't willing to sell it.
Oh, he wasn't willing to sell like the bottle we had on the table?
Yeah, I offered.
You could just taken it, no?
No, I was like, I like taking little sort of souvenirs, and that's a good Oklahoma souvenir.
Oh yeah, I got the Thunder hat from across the street, and then Chris liked it so much he got one for himself and Robert Goldman. We just needed one for you now to have like the 4 Guru After Dark.
The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Whoa, yes. We're here to give bad news. You kind of developed that reputation for yourself. Scary.
I have. You're the one who called me Baba Yaga.
I know, but is this intentional or
no?
Is this like part of being a lawyer? Because Edie doesn't do this.
No, that's not Edie's modus operandi.
So that's not part of being an attorney.
No, it's Edie has a different modus operandi than I. She's a little bit more how do we make it work? And I think that's a great thing. In my case, it's here are the problems that you may not be seeing.
Yeah, here's how to avoid catastrophes. Like
correct.
Where you come in.
So her perspective is, what is the most likely problem to face? And I'm like, likely I'm going to address anyways. What are the problems you haven't thought of that you might face that shuts the whole thing down?
Likely I'm going to address anyways. Is that true? Not for you, but for most people.
Most lawyers are going to address your most likely problems. That's at least the ones they think are most likely. You get standard, for example, indemnification language. Like if someone gets hurt, someone's probably going to get hurt in a clinical trial. That's just sort of treatment, right? So someone might get hurt. So you have to address that. But fraud, for example, gets addressed because it's unlikely. It's a little bit unlikely. But now, for example, corporate practice of medicine, is it really a big issue? Edie goes, not really. How likely is it that someone's going to prosecute? I go, people are losing their medical licenses. Happens. DOJ is targeting it. Happens. So are you going to be the one that gets caught? I don't know.
Corporate practice of medicine. So meaning every physician out there is part of a large health system, more or less.
That's okay. The issue is more physician ownership of clinical trial sites. And
I see.
That's a discussion you and I have had a few different times.
Because you've already showed, exhibit A or B that in Texas it's actually not allowed.
Correct.
Which is surprising because that's one of the most lenient, business-friendly states like you can come across.
Yeah, I think Arizona we thought was like 49%. I don't quote me on this, but I thought Arizona the physician needs to own at least 51%. It's the same as with lawyers. Like lawyers, you cannot be a non-lawyer and practice law. The only exception is now Arizona. They came out and said, so one of your big 4.
Wow, I'm going to start my law firm, man. How about that?
Start your own law firm.
Let's do it. There's nothing to it. Just scare people. Right?
I mean, I seem to do that all the time anyways.
And partner with the Edie that won't scare people and kind of offsets that.
Exactly. And with Nita, you just dance it off.
Wow. Let's talk about this offline. I like this idea.
Okay.
So in Arizona, you don't need a law degree to practice.
Well, to own a law firm. But you don't need Arizona lawyer.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, owning a law firm's not. Well,
what are you going to do?
I should ask. I don't know. Hire lawyers.
Yeah, but do you really want to be in that business?
Definitely not.
Exactly. So then why would you bother?
Yeah, these fraud pods are enough, man. I get my dose. I'm in. I'm out.
Yeah.
That's okay. So like throwing let's say Pfizer's logo on a patient recruitment flyer in your
Uh-huh.
site
Okay.
without their approval. That's like kind of obvious
What do you think is the
risk.
problem here?
I mean, I know there's a problem. I don't know which statute it's violating. It probably Pfizer's some violation of the contract you signed with them.
Oh, you haven't even gotten to the contracts part yet. So
Wow.
first of all, hi Chintan, how are you? He's one of the comments.
Oh, Chintan. Oh, I thought you were talking to somebody at your door.
No.
Chintan, I forgot about the comments. We're live. Chintan, you were a pleasure to be around, man. You and
He's
your
setting
wife
up a
are
whole thing.
amazing. The podcast is coming out soon. That is a power couple right there.
Well,
Seriously.
Chintan's setting up the group for site
I know.
owners to get
I
together.
saw. I joined. You're
Oh,
not
you did?
invited. Yeah, you're not invited.
I'm not invited. I'm not cool enough for that. Chintan
In the
specifically
law
said,
of Chintan of the site, he says no. You must be a site owner.
you must be a site owner. So now you can become a law firm owner, but I can be a site owner. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. You see, education works against you, man. Shintan, that podcast coming out. You know the first podcast Daniel sent me from the 20. Apparently, I personally shot 20 podcasts at SOS.
Did you?
The
I can
first
see that.
one, yeah, the first one's me, you, and Robert and Chris.
Hmm.
Like not the after dark, but like the during the day one.
Oh, I remember that one. That was a good one, though.
Yep. And the second one is you and the site owner from Florida talking about Florida fraud. So
that was a good one.
You're in 2 of the 20 that I've seen so far. Like you might be in more. I just don't really remember.
I'm in the fraud the after dark.
Correct. So that's 3 out of 21 in that case. Yeah, we pulled off a lot of content at this, and that's not counting recording the panels.
Yeah,
all the shorts. That's all separate.
You guys had an incredible. Your marketing team is incredible. I love your videographers. They're really, really good.
They're legit, man. Those dudes, and they're funny too. Did you put on those headphones and listen to what they're saying?
Oh no,
that's hilarious. That should be a video in and of itself.
Behind the scenes,
what are they talking about? But yeah, what did you think? I guess this is your first. By the way, thank you, Aniti, for the post SOS videos that you get.
Yeah, no, thank you for everything. It's funny. We were one of the things I forgot is I got those mugs for
Better Call Darshan.
Yeah. I had them delivered, and then I forgot to pick them up. So now
they were at the UPS store, probably.
Yeah, they were at the UPS store.
We can ask Brad to go pick them up. He's local.
If I have to, I think they offer to just send it. So
wow, man.
But that was funny.
My T-shirts got there, but I remembered it was like on top of my mind.
Well, my goal was to give them out at the conference.
Right.
I just forgot that they were there.
Right. We gave away all the cold summer shirts too.
I know. You guys had like an incredible time. Like, let me ask you this. This is like, is there a chance there's going to be another one?
Of course. We were just talking about gambling and earlier before the. I mean, it's a high chance. If you were going to bet on that, it's a low risk bet.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It's more a matter of like ironing out little details that doesn't really interest the outside. But
okay.
Will it happen? Is a very low risk bet that it will.
Okay. And since you are talking bets, are we talking Vegas now?
What do you mean? Oh, wow. I mean, you're reading between the tea leaves here. It's on my short list.
Okay.
But who am I? Just one of 6?
Yeah, but like you're the clinical trials guru.
Yeah, but I don't assert myself like that. I'm like just whatever. I'm just one vote.
Let's be honest. You're not even the real decision maker. Judy,
Ashley, Monica are the ones like
exactly
kicking all of our asses. Me, Brad, and Chris were just along for the ride, man. It's a good mix.
The doers,
I like what we've done,
and the marketers.
And then what's Chris? He's kind of like a little both. You know, he
Chris
gets
is the
involved on
straddle.
this.
He's the bridge. He's the bridge.
He's the bridge between the two. Yep. Well, speaking of SOS, so maybe this is a good segue into Fraud Pod. Like, so you, not to throw shade at other conferences you go to, whatever.
I
Right.
already know where this is going.
The truth comes after the butt. Not to throw shade at other conferences, okay? But you probably haven't discussed like community-based research sites with small mom and pop, family-owned businesses in a while, or maybe you do like one-on-one, but
Yeah.
at SOS you got like a bunch.
Sure.
That's like
Absolutely.
the main kind of attendee, right? So compared to the more polished, buttoned-up site network, PE back,
Very subtle, man. You're just really subtle.
Well, I'm getting to a good talking point here.
Okay.
I'm just comparing, contrasting.
Uh-huh.
They probably have, I would assume, the more sophisticated ones would have their legal ducks in a row, more so than the smaller sites. Like, here's an example. You cut the question line because you were so amped about this one
just to be
thing.
clear, I did not cut that question line. Everyone's accusing me of this. I did not cut
You
the question
asked.
line.
They told me, and I was like, he probably asked, and they said,
No,
yes.
I didn't. Here's what actually
Oh,
happened.
wow.
They actually asked me to go ahead. They're like, why don't you
Gotcha. Okay, the point is, you were so enthusiastic about what you were hearing.
Yes.
It's like you never heard it before.
Yeah.
Probably because you haven't been around this archetype.
Oh, no, I have. I just haven't had them announce it in the middle of the conference saying, let us, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Let's price fix together.
Collusion.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you just break that down a little bit? Like double click on that, because first of all, I'm not even sure what that means. And I don't think small sites are capable of this. It must be like the larger ones. So explain.
Yeah. So short version is, in the end, what everyone's trying to prevent is unfair competition. Like, everyone should have a fair chance at making a profit. Everyone should be enabled to go out there and make a living for themselves. That's the general rule, right? That's what the FTC does. Now, there are various ways you could stop that. So for example, one way might be, Walmart comes in and says, I'm going to go into rural Pennsylvania, and you have a bunch of mom and pop stores. I'm going to undercut all of them. What I'm going to do is, this item costs $10,000. I'm going to sell it for $2,000.
Right. Because I can afford the loss for a while.
Exactly.
I can afford the loss longer than they can. They'll go out of business. But isn't that like what all the big companies do? Like Uber's done that to taxi cabs. And,
correct.
I mean,
it's happening in the pharmacy world all the time, right? That's what they're accusing PBMs of right now. Where they're saying that you guys made us all take a loss so that your pharmacies can continue to compete. That's one of the arguments that have been raised. So in the same way, so what the FTC comes out and says is, you can't go in there and essentially dominate the market by, and one could be where Walmart comes in and does it themselves, right? Another one could be, you create a cabal of 4, 5, 6 companies that come together and say, we're going to decide what the market price is. And
so that's where you're trying to parallel with what the small sites are doing. Correct. So far there's no thread with a Walmart or Uber comparison.
Correct.
So it's this decentralized fragmentation of the sites that are not formally partners, but they're going to conferences like SOS,
joining in private groups where vendors are not allowed.
Private groups like Chintan. No wonder he didn't let you in, man. Who let Baba Yaga in willingly? Okay. Do you think what would Edie say about this? Because she disagrees with you, I think.
Edie and I have a rule that whatever the other one says, we have to disagree. So it doesn't even matter.
That's healthy.
I'll take the position for Edie. What is the likelihood they're going to go after small mom and pop stores? And the answer is,
but go after for what though? Like, you have to prove collusion.
Price fixing to assert that one of the conversations there was, Why don't we all agree that a X-ray costs $3,000?
I see.
If I have no choice, if I have to do a clinical trial
I
and I
see.
need to do X-rays, and everyone says it's $3,000, whether or not it's $3,000, I now have to pay that.
But isn't that just like, what do they call that? Like standard of not standard of practice, but
Fair market value, is that what you're referring to?
no, not fair market value. More like common business practice, right? Like after a while,
Price fixing?
not price fixing. First of all, you're not going to get price fixing from like 100 sites meeting up. There's like thousands of sites in the country.
The
So
question is, at what point does it go from being 100 sites to 1,000 sites? Because the moment you have 100 or 200, 2,000 decide, at that point, the rest of the people say, yeah, that's the price I'm going with, because the big guys already decided. Now the sponsors, maybe Lilly can play, maybe Pfizer can play. Standard of care, I don't think that's standard of care.
Not standard of care. What up, Sahil? And by the way, Daniel, you just missed a huge compliment from Darshan
I
to you
know.
and your team. No, not standard of care. No, I don't think it's standard of care. Darshan is the go. Sahil, this guy. Okay, our podcast. Well, no, did we do? Hold on, I can't even remember anymore. You're in the vlog for sure. I don't know if you're in the pod, but these are all SOS like OGs right here. So you're accusing everyone here of collusion, basically.
I am not. Just to be clear, we are not making any claims. We don't know anyone. For your own sakes, I am not making any claims, just to be clear.
So here's I understand what you're saying and your concern from a legal standpoint.
Yeah.
From a pragmatic standpoint, like right now, I'm one of, maybe 100 sites on one of my new studies. Chris just negotiated the budget.
Sure.
We have 85 sites in our network that pay us to negotiate their budgets.
Yeah.
I don't even think another site exists in our network that's doing the same budget. Like this industry,
and that's the point.
It's so big.
And that's the point. The point is, as long as everyone's negotiating fairly, that's not a problem. The moment you get together and close off conversations and say, we're going to all charge X, or we're going to have these new terms. If every single clinical trial site came out and said, we now own the IP, that is still collusion.
So wouldn't a site network, like a big one, be accused potentially of collusion? Like I was at an investigator meeting. One site network was responsible for half of the sites there.
And that may very well be a concern.
So what is your take on that? Like what should they be doing, looking out for?
So again, what you want to do is you want to be playing fair. Now, there's nothing to say that you can't charge what is appropriate, because in the end, you still have to make a living. You still have to make a profit. If you own all of these sites, now it depends on how the site network's set up, right? I don't know how these guys are set up.
Well, what about price differentiation? Because everyone tries to make.
I think Clinton's asking the same question. Don't SMOs do the same thing?
Exactly. And what about price differentiation? Because the push is for diversity, right? So if you have a site in Yuma, just speaking hypothetically, if you have a site in Yuma that's like diverse as you can get for Latinos.
To be clear, everyone should follow the not legal advice.
Yes, this is, God forbid, medical advice.
When did you add tax?
We had to throw that in there because of you, of course.
I don't give tax advice. I've never given tax advice.
Well, maybe
I do give legal or medical advice in the appropriate situations.
I think at one point we're doling out tax advice to you. You might want to check with your attorneys, Darshan.
That's fair. That's fair.
So Edie needs to look into that. What about, like, not everything is ubiquitous pricing. A site in Yuma is not the same as a site in New Haven, Connecticut, or Portland, Oregon. There's a demographic demand that certain sponsors need for certain indications.
Sure.
And they're going to pay more for where that demand's higher. That's necessarily
market pricing. That's market pricing. But the moment you go beyond that and you say, we have all decided.
We have all decided.
Right.
And that's going to be impossible to do.
Or substantially all of us, or many of us, or most of us.
That's where you need lawyers for now.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not binary. There's a limit. I guess the limit is when a sponsor gets pissed. No.
Yeah, when a sponsor feels like they are losing, like I said, a Lilly or Pfizer might be able to afford, but at some point you start pricing out the smaller sponsors.
Wait, is there a precedent for a sponsor suing a site for doing a study? I don't think they do that.
No, not that I'm aware of, but it's not a sponsor that would bring this lawsuit anyways.
Who would bring it?
The SEC.
They got bigger fish to fry.
They do. And remember, you and I just had this conversation of what is the likelihood of something happening
Correct.
versus if it happens, everything goes to shit.
And wasn't the FTC commissioner that con lady that now with the Trump regime is somebody else?
She's gone. FTC.
She's gone. She was blocking every M&A, every merger.
No. So if you're in healthcare M&A, not every, like probably about 4 or 5 states have now come out and they're saying we want closer review of healthcare transactions. There is now private equity companies, and I'm like talking to these private equity companies because I follow this work. I do this type of work. The private equity is being targeted by the Department of Justice for healthcare transactions, specifically M&A transactions. Then there is if your private equity is on your board and there's fraud, the private equity company and the board members, even if they're just board members and not operators, could be sued under the False Claims Act. These are all lawsuits individually.
If they're aware, if you can prove they were aware of the fraud.
Correct. So those are all considerations as you continue.
Man, you do an excellent, phenomenal job of scaring people. You're like the one of one in the industry, man. Sahil says why.
I don't know what the why is referring to, though.
Yeah, Sahil, throw it in there, man. Vancouver, he's got a TRX too. We got to race one of these days. Sahil's the man. You know, he's been watching my videos since he was like 12. And he's only 23.
How old are we, dude?
I know. That's what I felt at that Alice in Wonderland party. It's like, I was watching your videos since I was 12. I was like, what the hell were you doing watching how to run a site when you were 12? And he's like, I don't know. I just liked it. Crazy. Some people are built different, man. Some people are built different.
Sahil's like,
and now he's doing. Now he's doing. At least I hope to God this is the same person I'm talking about. Otherwise, I look very foolish right now. He owns a site network in Vancouver, Canada, and does fairly well. Right? Please tell me I'm right. Not 12, 14. This is the dude. I'm telling you. I'm horrible with names, great with faces. 22 now. Yeah, 14 years old watching videos about, 14-year-olds are like playing all kinds of Roblox, not watching people on the fringes of YouTube making videos about how to start a site. But dude, now he's 22, runs a site network in Vancouver. Soon going to be freaked out about collusion from Darshan. Welcome to the club.
I'm always looking for new things I don't know. Yeah. And I'm developing this expertise around antitrust right now. So
you love it though.
I do.
For that, like your core market would be larger companies.
Well, I think they have their own issues, but it's not like we don't have issues in every area. As far as I know, there's no one else who does clinical research law and does antitrust. So I think it's a unique thing that we're kind of bringing to the table, which is going to be fun. And that's why they get to hear about it on Fraud Pod. We just introduced a new type of fraud, which is antitrust.
Fraud, you didn't even realize you're committing. This is why you had to like get in line and say, listen, guys. And what was the feedback? I was not there. I was in the corner doing podcasts, but I was told everything like I heard from third parties. So I want to hear directly from you. Like, what was the feedback from when you made your statement of like, you guys need to really be careful?
I think Goldman told me, Darshan, you're not allowed to speak anymore.
Wow. So silencing the critics.
That's right. Now Hightower's on here. He's an expert in bird law. Now, the question is, if he's an expert in bird law, is he from Philadelphia? Because the only other expert in bird law is in Philadelphia. I assume he knows this reference because no one references bird law.
Because of the Eagles?
No.
Oh.
No, it's actually from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That was a fairly good show. I only got into like 2 seasons though.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So
Do you
as
like
a character,
Portlandia? Have you ever watched
I didn't like
Portlandia?
Portlandia that much.
I think it's funny. They throw jabs at, you know.
I mean, I thought some of it was really funny. But Portlandia, I think I just don't like Fred Armisen is my problem. I liked the other woman, but I don't like Fred Armisen.
I like the humor.
Do you?
It was early. Now it's like what they made fun of was like actually reality a few years ago. This show is like a decade and a half ago.
I
Like the
know.
first seasons. They were
I
early.
like. Why is Hightower not on here? That'd be fun to have him.
Brad, I don't have an assistant like you, but DM me on LinkedIn if you want to come on. I'm here. I'm here for you, man. By the way, shout out to Brad with the. Did you pick up any of the Brad Hightower T-shirts? The Ted Williams or the?
No, I didn't even know they were there.
Well, do you even know who Ted Williams is? First of all,
No, let's be clear. My lack of knowledge is.
He wrote a really good book called How to Hit Well. He was the best baseball hitter of all time. I think it's called On Hitting or something, but it's like actually a philosophy book disguised as a baseball book.
Huh.
Yeah, he says the only thing you do like to be the best hitter is you just wait for the right pitch. You don't swing at everything, and you're very strict in what you swing at.
Okay, I genuinely have a question because I'm not a baseball follower, but if you miss, aren't you out if you don't take the swing?
No, 3 strikes, but the balls have to be in the strike zone.
Okay.
And a lot of pitchers throw like in the corners to try to trick you, like to make you like, because you only have a split second to the side.
Okay.
They're like, okay, if you see a ball in the corner, you get nervous, you're going to swing to protect the strike zone, but it may just be a ball. And that's where baseball becomes mental too. Like, so his book is very good. But anyways, Brad made sure about Ted Williams. Something about clinical research is the only industry where 3 out of 10 is considered a like Hall of Fame level or something like that.
I think I saw that comment.
Yeah. Well, you have to know Ted Williams because basically to be a 300 hitter in baseball, you're a Hall of Famer, guaranteed.
So because of you guys,
yes,
I'm gonna share my screen because you guys inspired this that I'm gonna get published in the American Bar Association, hopefully later this month. Then
okay. Brad, I'm emailing you the invite in case you want to come on. I'm not gonna wait by my DM box because Darshan wants me to share screens and all kinds of shit. Fraud pod. Brad's never been on a fraud pod. This would be like history in the making. All right, here we go. Share Darshan's screen.
So these are laws most of you guys haven't even heard of, but it's all there.
By the way, Sahil says, I'm eating lunch and watching this, and random guy next time is trying to watch as well.
See?
Well, tell him, like, subscribe, comment, share, and stop being a jackass. All right, and follow Darshan too, of course.
That's right, of course.
Comment, share, Darshan.
So exclusive contracts are a problem. So if someone's, and you might like this. So if sponsors go out there, CROs go out there, and they're saying we're going to have exclusive contracts, that's probably a problem. Price fixing, like we said, might be a problem. M&A transactions, depending on what you've got, that supervision, that scrutiny that's happening. Site approval delays as a competitive tactic could be a problem. So essentially, if a CRO or a so I'm not if a CRO comes out there and says that we want to we're only going to use our sites, but they don't want to
we'll activate these ones quicker.
Exactly.
Well, the way they do that is like they can reasonably justify it. Like, well, these are our sites; we own them. We can control them.
That would be a problem. That would be seen to be a problem.
But wouldn't that be, a problem maybe by regulators, but on the capitalistic side, it's a competitive advantage.
And that's exactly why it would be a problem, because you're now using your vertical dominance to exclude others. So it's not fair competition. It's unfair competition at that.
But wouldn't this ultimately boil down to some judge, like some regulator, saying, "Well, I side with competitive market force here versus."
Correct. But if I was any large company, I'm not pissing off the FTC if I can help it. And that's why they need to practice transparent site selection, avoid exclusive contracts. prohibit price coordination.
Do you think this
Monitor.
might happen? Okay, so it's still a very low probability
I'd say
outcome.
that's fair. That's fair.
But do you think the way this would happen conceivably would be a
Look at that hair.
sponsor gets pissed off? Okay, nice desktop, by the way. Like,
Thank you.
is that Philly? I think that's last
Yeah,
time I've been to
it's
Philly. It looked
downtown
exactly
Philadelphia.
like this.
Downtown Philadelphia looks exactly like this.
Looks like a place to practice bird law.
Oh, there it is. That's what it is.
So you have like entire sheets on this stuff. So low probability event,
Low probability, high risk.
high risk.
And then there's
Correct.
high probability, low risk, which is I didn't get paid.
This one's a low probability, high risk.
Yeah.
If conceivably this were to ever happen, which hasn't yet.
Yeah.
Do you think the most likely scenario would be a sponsor gets pissed and whistle blows to the FTC like, hey, this is collusion? And because they're kind of cozied up to regulators anyways.
They're not cozied up. Regulators don't like farmers.
Well,
that's what you're thinking.
They're the biggest lobbying group in the world. So they have connections.
Sure.
Listen, anyone who has any delusions as to how government and business like intermingle this, you need to read the 5-volume by Lyndon Johnson of Robert Caro. Amazing. He's funded. The whole machine is funded by businesses.
Dude, are you now moving away from like clinical research to straight up conspiracy?
This is not conspiracy, bro. Like, you want Robert Caro on the show? He's like 90 years old and still writing the 5th volume. This is documented.
So he's like the dude from Game of Thrones.
Yes, but it's about a real guy named Lyndon Johnson So conceivably, this is one scenario I see how it would play out.
Yeah,
like Johnson & Johnson or whomever, Merck, whatever. One of these old school people would be like, listen, we're getting all these horrible contracts and like, I'm going to make some calls. You know, we got people we know and they got people they know. Eventually it's going to get to.
So you just think it's like a mob thing. I know a guy who knows a guy.
Yeah. You don't?
Okay.
You don't? It all boils down to people.
It all does boil down to people.
Yeah.
And in the end, I think you're right about one thing, which is a lot of the people who are working in antitrust law probably have friends who worked in the FTC and worked in the SEC and worked in all of these agencies. So if I was going to bet who has that type of money, yeah, pharma probably does.
Yeah.
Or they know people who do.
I'm not saying they would. I'm just saying if this were to happen, that would be one conceivable way.
Correct.
High probability way of it.
Yeah. Occurring. But it's more that don't go out there and collude is the point I was making. And it's simple to avoid that, but you just don't want to also have the impropriety of it. You know, people say things like, oh, a bunch of pharma CEOs get together and they decide what blah is going to cost. Like, they don't, but the reason they don't is because of exactly this, because of collusion.
Right. And that would be easier to prove. Well, and then there's the other side of this whole concept of using the law to prevent others from becoming successful, right? Like just the threat of the law is enough to prevent people from collusion, quote unquote collusion, even if it's not what they're doing.
I mean, I
look at CLSM. Try to say this name 5 times fast. You know, apparently the most beneficial gift a father can give his son isn't an inheritance, but rather his contact book.
Well, I don't know. I'd pay the inheritance and the contact book, but still,
I'll get both. Well, the contact book's only good if like the sons of their contacts are also.
Yeah, and I know a lot of sons who don't want that contact book.
Yeah, well, I'll take the money.
Exactly. Depends on how much money.
I don't need all the contacts I need are right here in Guru Nation. We got
exactly.
Sean, Brad, Sahil, Chintan. We're good. Edie, Monica, Judy, Chris, Ashley.
Damn, all these shout outs.
We're good.
I know.
That's my.
You've got a team right there.
Daniel.
That's
all I'm saying. This stuff can be used to prevent, like, kick the ladder when you're already up, to make the other guys like kind of
very much so.
climb.
Very much so. But the question really then becomes, and I think here's what you have to understand, right? My job is to tell you of the risks. Your
Yeah.
job is to go, I accept the risks, moving on.
Okay, let me ask you another question
Yeah.
here. I kind of know the answer, but from all your experiences
Yeah.
of all the sites,
Yeah.
let's just say private industry sites,
Sure.
all sizes,
Yeah.
right? Is anyone have you ever seen anyone being compliant on all aspects
No.
of their practice?
0 times.
So no one's compliant.
100% no.
100% of the people are compliant, are non-compliant 100% of the time.
Correct.
So you're always going to be in business, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Darshan.
That's
And
why I'm not worried when AI takes over, they're still coming to me.
right, you did mention maybe we should talk a little bit about that too. And Chintan, by the way, shout out his group a little more. The
But it's
intent of
not
this
just
group,
1,000 topics. We'll stay away from pricing, but it also goes to contract terms. It also goes to anything where you decide collectively that some now you can commiserate and you can go, I have a concern. Those are all fair things to talk about. But
yeah.
now saying we're going to collectively do A, B, C is when you start having problems.
And Shintan's group, yeah, there's so much we can get into actually. We will stay away from pricing, but it's not just that though. It's access to studies is what Darshan's referring to. At one point you can maybe charge sponsor, hey, you could have access to our members, but you can't. You know, it could get
If you don't join this, yeah. Those are the issues.
here's the more human reason why I don't think Chintan, I love this idea. I've been trying to do it. Brad's been trying to do it for a while. Rod Raphael's been trying to get sites. Sites will only go there when they need something. They won't go there necessarily to give, unless even if you try to encourage that, they're not always going to give their best thing. And then like those really good studies, like if we put studies on a spectrum from like high value to like kind of whatever, the really good ones, they're so competitive as is. You're just trying to get your own site that study, right? And then even if you wanted to say here's the contact, but guys, this is super competitive, it's hard to get a hold of the sponsor. It's almost like why would you even put that? Because it's no point in putting that contact out there. And then now a lot of these sponsors email filters are very good. You have to like send an encrypted message. It's like Inspector Gadget. You know, at the end of all his shows, he like crumple up the paper and explode. It's like that. Like to just even if I gave you a contact from like one of these big pharma, they're not seeing your email. It has to come through a known contact of theirs, and they only put known for you when you work with them.
So they get
So
spam.
right. So I think it's a good intent of the group. I think even if you just share ideas, I think it's fine. But when it comes to like sharing studies and stuff, I've seen it not be successful. I think the best way is a very low cost pay to.
I'm going to give you, to me, that was the big, impressive part of SOS, which is I thought people came in there with this really big giving spirit, which is super unusual.
Well,
like I know I did. I came in going, I know I really avoid using language of this, but I'm really blessed to be able to be part of this opportunity. And I was just like, whatever we can give, I want to give.
Yeah. And thank you guys for that too. I mean, that is the spirit we're trying to foster. And even that's not perfect. Like no one's giving, their best stuff necessarily, but the fact that they are giving is still saying a lot more than everyone else out there. And I think that spirit comes from being small, being the underdogs, kind of feeling like the industry's evolving against your best interest in a way. And even though there were some site networks there, but I feel like they had the right spirit also. Shout out to M3 Wake Research. They were my record for most guests on a pod at once. It was 12. Very chaotic.
Really?
Yeah. But Yeah, there is a talking to people like M3 and Wake showed me that there is a way to keep a big site network with a small like entrepreneurial spirit.
Do you know them
And
well?
I just met them.
Oh, okay.
The way they do it is they operate each site like almost like an independent site, but they do share best practices, but each one has its own site director and they can experiment with things. They can kind of play around. And I thought that was really interesting. And it was a paradigm shift from what how I thought a site network would operate, which is more of the old school, like what you're alluding to. Let's standardize everything, use our size for power to bully people.
So it's funny. I just got off the call yesterday
Yeah.
with some of the private equity people from SOS. And their big thing is, why don't we standardize the sites and add some professionalism? And that's where we think there's a tremendous amount of value.
Right. But you think, as an attorney, you
Mhm.
think that's where the biggest probability of risk lies.
No, I'm saying no. Professionalism is good. Standardization is good, but standardization to the exclusion of others is bad.
Right. But what's the purpose of the former?
Of standardization and professionalism? No. So here's what
To
I
increase market
think.
share, no?
No, not necessarily. Honestly, I think it's
For
actually the exact
the hell
opposite.
of it, like let's just be professional because it's fucking cool.
No. Because quite honestly, I think most, and you know this more than I do, but whenever I deal with my smaller sites, what they're spending a lot of their time on is putting out fires. And what standardization does for you is empowers your team to deal with stuff that's been done before, where you don't have to get involved in every fire that gets set alight. You get to go.
So increasing operational efficiencies.
Exactly.
But in order to do what, though? To increase your bottom line?
To grow. You might decide,
Right.
I have a site right now who's going, I want to go from 3 to 5 because now I have this operational efficiency that I
Really?
now have more bandwidth. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what it's for. I don't think it's for, well, as a result of that, you get better multipliers.
Yeah. And as a result of that, you get better market leverage when it comes to negotiating. And then,
exactly,
like you said, it becomes a fine line at some point of, is this really like proper business leverage or is this like bordering on collusion?
right.
Yeah.
I don't know if that becomes collusion yet, because if you're always allowed to go, I'm just a better site, and that's fine. We're the only sites in town becomes a problem. You take it and go even worse, and you go, I'll take up this half of Dallas, and you take up that half of Dallas. It's an issue.
So what the hospital does in my town right here?
That would, I don't know. I can't.
Hey, you need to make a trip, jump in your private jet, and come out here.
But yeah, so those are some of the things that are anti-competitive.
I just feel like we need to enforce the rules uniformly and not selectively.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's the part that's hard to control.
The problem is it's reminiscent of people speeding. You can't catch everyone who's speeding. Sometimes you're just trying to make a scene. You're trying to show that people will be caught, and hopefully everyone else slows down. Exactly.
Sure. Except unlike
or
speeding,
you can avoid being the first person caught.
Right. Except unlike speeding, where it kind of happens in the moment, this could be
planned.
An event, pre-planned.
Correct.
Over months, years. The variable might be you make a lot of noise, or you didn't like what you did last time, or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I guess we need more Darshans in the world after all. And you come to defend the sites. You come to help the sites.
Exactly. My job is not to prosecute. My job is to help you avoid these problems.
Bless your heart. Our prosecutors nice people?
They're actually very nice people. Remember, my experience. It's all people. It's all friends.
Right.
They went to law school with me. One of my friends is an assistant U.S. attorney, and she's been at it for decades. And she's like, I'm in it because people get hurt. I'm in it because the small site. So just like remember, it's not the small sites that are typically being targeted. It's the larger sites putting down the small sites.
Correct. Kicking the ladder down.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's all about being fair.
Right. So I think you're yeah, and we don't have enough time to get into all the stuff you were appalled by at SOS, but I'm sure you heard things that you're like, what the hell? Do you
I've been
guys
to a lot of
realize?
conferences recently where some of the
Okay,
stuff.
but what's the ratio of what the hell's at this one compared to others? Or is it normal?
No, it's about normalized. It's
Ah,
about normalized. Yeah.
okay.
If I would say a little bit less here, but I think that's more because I
Less.
just didn't hear it. Only because I didn't hear it. I don't believe that it's actually less. I think it's actually I just didn't hear the conversation.
I see.
Because the audience was the same. I'd be really surprised if one group is doing it less than the other. It wouldn't make any sense to me.
Okay. Nimisha,
Sure.
thank you for watching. Make sure you connect with Darshan.
Yeah.
Get connected with Chintan right here. Get connected with Brad,
CSLMNT.
the Birdman. CSNMT, but that's YouTube.
I know.
And
I assume that's Mutant
Pete
Ninja
Rush.
Turtles. I assume. I don't know.
Oh, the end, yes. Teenage Ninja Mutant. No. I
Yeah.
was obsessed with Ninja Turtle as a kid. Well, we're the same age. You must have been into that too. No?
I was.
Yeah. Michelangelo was my dude. He's a
Yeah, well, I
party.
liked all of them to be honest, but Michelangelo was a little too high strung for me.
Yeah, you're more Donatello.
I
Or
was more Leonardo.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was more
naturally, would it be Leonardo?
Leonardo.
I was Michelangelo. Just give me nunchucks, let me party, have a good time.
I think that really reflected in the last podcast. You like chaos, but so do I. I love
like
chaos.
Have you ever studied the deeper philosophy of Ninja Turtle? It's actually really interesting.
No,
So
that's interesting.
Splinter gave each turtle the weapons that were the antithesis to their character. So they had to really master them.
Oh,
right? So I forgot the exact way it plays out, but basically every weapon was given to each turtle so that they can master it. It wasn't for to leverage their strengths; it was to discipline their weaknesses.
very interesting.
Look it up. Look it up.
Oh, I intend to. That's gonna come out.
That's really cool shit. Anything else that we're?
I think we're good for now. But I can't wait to discuss this further. Like I think there's a whole new chapter of fraud that we can get into in Fraud Pod.
Were you illuminated by anything you heard besides this collusion stuff? Where you're like, what the hell? I can't believe this.
The part that the strategies that some of the sites use for subject engagement it borders on beneficiary inducement.
Fucking A. This guy. We'll leave the cliffhanger for another day. Go follow him. Get your dopamine fix. Like, subscribe, comment, share. That's a really good cliffhanger for next time.
There you go.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.